At the young age of 20, Brae is the head of programming at Hitfit Australia and is in charge of putting together the sessions that our members participate in across all our locations, as well as being the head coach at Hitfit Ravenel, where we are today. Brae, you've essentially grown up at Hitfit. Tell us how your journey with boxing and Hitfit started.
Yeah, so pretty much my journey with boxing, I started from the age of about 13, 14. Ideally, I came to Hitfit, I did the very first, when they first did the under 16 class, and I was part of that. And pretty much from there, I just started because I wanted just to lose some weight and have some natural self-defense, just like any, young boy in school. I was a bit on the chubbier side as well. And it was mainly for fitness. The biggest thing for me was just fitness. I knew at that age, I wanted to lose some weight, and I wanted to do something that was just a bit different. I never really did much a different martial arts or anything like that, and just wanted to try it out. And yeah, I sort of started doing the kids classes. I did that for a bit, and I really enjoyed it, and I stayed pretty dedicated to that. And it's just a cool experience, overall. And then from there, it sort of led to COVID hit, and that was a lot of people say it was a very hard time. I mean, it was a very hard time, but for me, it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise. I actually loved it because I felt during that time, I had the most amount of growth, for my personal self. I lost, at the age of, 14, 15, I lost something 12 to 15 kilos, at that point in time, and for me, that was huge. It was the biggest accomplishment. But during COVID times, obviously you guys were still running the Hitfit classes over Zoom and having us all part of training on Zoom, which was an absolutely incredible experience. And I think just dealing with that, staying dedicated, it showed different levels of discipline of how I can continue on to keep benefiting myself, even in the hardest times, And then from that continuously doing that, as I said, I noticed heaps of weight loss and things like that, and my boxing ability was increasing, and I was meeting new friends and building good relationships all over Zoom, not even in person, which was crazy. And then from that point, once we went out of lockdown, and we were back at the gym, I was getting in with the adult classes a lot more. I think I did adult classes 3 weeks before the lockdown. So as I stepped up to it, I remember in the kids, I was yeah, I can't wait to get to adults. I wanted to just always hit that next level, And I remember having the conversation with Harvey and your brother Les, and they were yeah, all right, you can officially go up, And I like I said, I was only 14 or whatever at the time, 15 at the time. And then but that's when COVID hit. And then after that, I continuously trained. I sort of knuckled down pretty hard, and was just training with everyone else. And I I said, I felt I built just heaps of community with people and making friends and whatever else, and just stay continuous. And it was one of those things I was just yeah, I want to go every day, and just something I found a love and a passion for. And then from that position, the first Rise Up come across too. So that was a crazy experience for me too. I decided, you know what, let's hop in the ring, let's give it a crack. So the very first ever, or bucket list experience it was called back then, I joined in on, and that was, an experience of a lifetime. That was crazy, one of the best things I've ever done. So then from that position, I did the fight, crazy experience, unbelievable experience, and just sort of kept training. I guess myself, just trying to keep working my way up the ranks, you know what I mean? I was always just trying to perform my absolute best and do my absolute best with everything, and just keep sort of pushing. And I've always sort of had that, I guess, general mindset that I've been taught from, yourself and all the other coaches as well. And just constantly being hungry for improvement, I guess. And that's sort of where it led to, where I had a couple fights. And then from that position, I started getting eager to see work and see what opportunity was there. And I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that sort of come along that way. But I was able to obviously get a job. And then from there, just slowly sort of work my way up bit by bit to where I'm sort of sat here today, I guess.
Through that process, you also stepped into the ring yourself. What did that teach you about life at a young age?
That experience taught me that if you work hard enough for something and you truly want something hard, there's no, I guess, age limit, or I guess the biggest lesson for me was to really showcase how powerful the mind is, and if you really put your mind towards anything and strive for it, you can do it. I remember for it itself, I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And the opponent I had at the time was older than me too, and my family was coming down. And I remember before it, it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life, But then afterwards, I was like everyone says, when's the next one? When's the next hit, And I think through that process, it taught me the first level of discipline, going through a training camp and understanding what you got to do, what it takes to get to a certain point, and then to be able to fulfill that, and then have such an experience on the night, that's something I'll remember for the rest of my life, So it was absolutely incredible.
For sure. And for those that have never done a boxing match before, as you said, it's one of the most terrifying things you can do, yet equally rewarding. How does that experience help people reach their full potential in life?
I would say it makes people reach their full potential from, I guess, sort of being on the back foot. You know what I mean? Not knowing like what's coming, and just have to being at the point where like you don't have a choice. You have to be at your best. You know what I mean? You don't have a choice. There's no choice in the matter. And with that, like, just like I said, having the choice of being able to perform your absolute best. And I think overall, as a collective and as an experience, I actually recommend something that everyone does, you know, because it makes you got to sort of be comfortable with being uncomfortable and in that environment, and teaches your body like things you're not used to, but getting used to those things. And that sort of experience, especially with myself being young, but going through like very similar things with the boxing sort of scene, all those little 1%, whether it's work, training, or whatever, it all comes down to the same thing. And what I've found is the work that you put in is what you get out at the end of the day. You know, however much work you're willing to put in and whatever kind of work you put in is the result that you're going to get at the end of the day. So I know for myself, like doing a boxing fight, I put in a lot of work because I want to perform my best. And of course, when you your first fight, like it really wasn't that good. I look back at it now, it's horrendous. But at the time, I felt like the man. You know what I mean? At that point, I felt on top of the world. You know what I mean? Because I was the fittest I've ever been. I was the most confident I've ever been. I had people around me to support me in that journey. And to be honest, bro, like I try and tell people all the time, that's where I'm sort of at now, like experience hopping in the ring and experience getting into the ring, because one of the best things that you're doing, the teaches you so many things along the way, not just the fight, but more of the mental side of things, the physical side of things, of course, but mainly like the battle that you have with yourself throughout that period, if that makes sense, you know?
100%.
So, yeah, incredible experience.
Absolutely. I think boxing teaches people more about themselves than anything else.
Sure.
And as you mentioned as well, it is more about the mind more than anything. I remember when I was learning boxing, I come to the realization that, you actually have to go against all your natural instincts.
For sure.
Just like if someone throws a punch at you, your first reaction is to like lean back, which in reality, that reaction actually puts you at danger. You know, where someone throws a punch, you learn either to go into it to block it or to slip it and move forward into the danger, which indirectly actually makes you safe.
For sure.
You know, and I think in life that when you face them uncomfortable feelings, or for example, if, you know, you're scared and you acting scared actually puts your life more at risk, you have to train yourself to be courageous in that moment.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
I never played like football or whatever, but there is an analogy where like, if two people are going for a tackle, the person that goes the hardest actually is the safest.
Of course.
You know, where typically if you're going in for a tackle against someone really big, the natural thing would be to pull up, but that's the thing that gets you hurt.
100%.
You know, and I think
for sure.
you can learn that obviously in a lot of different sports, but I think especially in boxing, it's before you're about to walk out, you are absolutely terrified and you're shitting yourself. But if you have the courage to do it anyway, you realize what's on the other side of that.
100%.
And again, you feel like the man, you feel proud that you actually accomplished that thing. And I think that acts as a bit of a benchmark for everyone of what you have to do in life to reach your fullest potential.
100%.
You know, you do have to fight them battles, and unfortunately you do have to go against your natural instincts.
For sure.
Whether that's something like dieting, you know, you might actually be craving that chocolate, but if you want to lose weight,
that's right,
and you hit your calories for that day, you have to go against your natural instincts and not eat that chocolate.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's them little 1%ers and them battles. I truly believe something like boxing can help anyone learn.
I would agree, right? Definitely. And dealing with a lot of people obviously on the gym floor too, that's definitely one of the biggest lessons that it's taught me, you know, like being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then naturally that thing like just becomes second nature, you know what I mean? I guess like for myself, I haven't had heaps of fights, but I know with like coaching and things like that, continuously doing that certain thing for such a period of time, you eventually just get comfortable with it. And then naturally that becomes part of you, you know? So like those lessons, I guess it's just all constant like level ups, you know, constant level ups. So I couldn't agree more, bro.
Absolutely. There's a saying in boxing, some people are born fighters and some people are born trainers. You are a natural born trainer, which I'm sure you would agree with.
Yeah.
What made you want to start coaching?
Look, at the start, it was just purely as a form of income, you know? I felt like originally just being young and hungry, like I just wanted money, you know what I mean? So whatever I could really get my hands on, ideally, I was going for, you know what I mean? Before the boxing gym, I worked at a kebab shop, and before the kebab shop at like 12 and 11 years old, I was mowing lawns. Like just any form of income, I guess, was sort of like what's my strive. And then from working in the boxing gym, I actually sort of like, I found to build a love and connection for helping people, you know? And I guess that's sort of like guess that's sort of like my purpose now, I guess, and sort of what my mission is, just to help others, and that feeling of fulfillment you get from being able to help others and help people on their journey. Like boxing as a sport done so much for me, and like I'm forever grateful. It's continuously teaching me so much, and I feel like for me to be able to pass on that knowledge to others is a very valuable thing that, I truly hold close to my heart and I want to be able to give to people, So I guess to answer your question, yes, I feel I am a natural born coach because I've got a lot of care and love for other people, and me sort of like going through the fighting part, like I feel doing that and supporting others around their journey is what fulfills me and what I've found that I love. I've hopped in the ring and I experienced it a couple of times and enjoyed it for what it is 100%, but I found the love for helping others pursue their dreams, whether that's fitness, fighting, just general confidence, whatever it may be. I found I actually get more fulfillment, makes me feel better giving that to other people, So that's what I found I love for, and that's why I sort of continued to not fully step away from fighting, but like step away from myself actually hopping in the ring and just helping others achieve their goals, and helping others, like doing heaps of research, doing heaps of studies, and just sort of being able to guide others on that path and guide others on that direction, because I feel it does. It gives me a bit more fulfillment and it makes me happy. I go home with a smile on my face every day. You know what I mean? And I truly believe, and I this is the most important thing to me. Like, I don't feel I actually ever work a day in my life because I do what I love. A lot of my family and things like that do a lot of things to be able to support the family, and God bless them all. Like, they've worked so hard all in their lives, but growing up, I always wanted to do something that like I loved. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to come home and be like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. You know what I mean? I was so grateful I found something that I love doing, and with that, I'm able to help other people on their journey as well and fulfill myself. Like, it's a win-win, So, yeah.
100%. And you touched on it earlier. How rewarding is it for you to see the impact you're making on others? Yeah,
it's the most important thing. It's the most important thing to me to be able to help others. I feel like I've got a very open heart, and I just genuinely want the success of other people. Whether it's, as mentioned, whether it's people coming into the gym, people wanting to fight, people wanting to level up in different areas of their life. Like, if I can have some contribution to benefiting someone else, even if it doesn't benefit me, like, I know I'm making the world a better place by helping other people. Even if I'm having a bad day or someone else is having a bad day, me going up and having that interaction with them and knowing that I've made them at least 1% better makes my day anyway, So I found like doing that, and that's sort of what fulfills me in my sort of realm and what I enjoy out of it, and that's all I wish upon everyone else, I just wish everyone the best, and I wish everyone to be able to help them and achieve their goals on whatever path they're going on, whether even with, like, not even necessarily with boxing, just even some of the interactions I have with people, just talking about their day or whatever. Even though I'm still young and I haven't got heaps of life of experience, just being there for people and sort of being a genuine, kind-hearted person makes my heart full. You know what I mean? I know my cup's full of love, and doing that for others is what fulfills me and what makes me happy. So that's what I try and do all the time.
You were a coach at Hitfit Melton for a number of years, earning your stripes, from helping out with the kids' classes to running the kids' classes to helping out in the adult classes to running the adult classes. That obviously led to you getting the opportunity to become the head coach at Hitfit Ravenhall.
Yeah.
What was that moment like for you when you were given that opportunity?
Oh, incredible, bro. Incredible. Felt like all that like work and everything was like, didn't even bother me anymore. It's just like, it's here. You know what I mean? It was one of the most incredible things, because I was like, yourself and the team trusts me as a complete outsider that have obviously proven myself with time to be responsible for something so big. Like, at that point in time, I was like, bro, this is crazy. You know what I mean? It was like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I couldn't believe it. And in saying that too, like, earning my stripes throughout that period too, like, I know I've definitely put in a fair bit of work to get to that point. It was really sort of rewarding, if that makes sense. It was really rewarding, and it got to the point where I was like, you know what, like, I've sat back and I've done X, Y, Z to get me here, and I know I've put in the work and effort, and it was just like a real rewarding moment. They sort of like, and I've learned in boxing too, everything sort of goes like, not mellow, but everything just does its own thing, and then one day it's just like, boom, all of a sudden it hits. Everything with boxing in general has taught me that, and it was one of those moments where it's like, I felt like I was going at a very steady state. I felt like I was doing good, and then And there was just bang, opportunity, you know what I mean? And yeah, I was the happiest I've ever been, you know, where it's led me to this point, and we've been able to build an incredible community. So at that point in time, it's probably one of the best experiences I've had so far in my young years. So yeah, it was incredible.
100%. Now being a head coach, you are also responsible for helping develop other coaches.
Yes.
Is that equally as rewarding for you as training the members?
Yeah, for sure. Because I would say equally as rewarding, because I'm helping other people do what I know I love, you know, and introducing them into that realm as well. So if I'm able to help some other future coaches develop my skills that I've been able to learn off yourself and the other coaches around me that I've picked up skills from, and for me to be able to pass that on to other people and be a sort of like a quote unquote mentor, is incredible. You know, I look very highly of yourself and all the other people that have sort of been around me, you know, and that have sort of led me to the point that I'm at. And for someone else to look at me like that, like, that's crazy in my eyes. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even think that's a thing. So to answer your question fully, it's probably equally as rewarding, most definitely, because I can help people with their intentions of coaching and learning that sort of realm as well, to help other people along that realm as well. Like it's just an endless chain that's positivity. You know what I mean? There's not much negativity at all. And yeah, I once again, I found the love in being able to help other people achieve those goals for themselves as well. And yeah, it's equally rewarding for sure.
What has coaching members and coaches taught you about yourself?
In times of when I'm like uncomfortable, or if there's pressure, or you have something going on in your life, or whatever it is, you got to have like a switch. You know, I found you got to have like a switch that like you turn on and you become that person. Like alternatively, you know what I mean? There's not really like, it's taught me not to show weakness, but to sort of like, you have a switch, and when you're doing that class, you're on, because other people are relying on you. You know what I mean? Same thing when you're teaching other coaches, like you got to be on and you got to be a role model, because other people are now looking up to you. And if they fail, it's partly your responsibility, you know? So in my eyes, like, as mentioned before, I want to be able to be sort of the best mentor for others, and sort of pick others up as well, and give them an equal good experience as I've experienced. You know, as mentioned, I look up to many people, and I hold that strong to me. You know, I've got a lot of fair few mentors that I've worked with, and I've looked up to them like God, you know what I mean? Because I just wanted to try and take everything from them, because I see so highly of them, you know? So for me to be in like a similar position, which I guess sounds crazy actually saying that, you know, it sounds crazy saying that, but to be able to help other younger people, or people just in the same workplace as me now, and develop them, whether it's members or coaches, is an absolute pride, you know? So it's absolutely incredible.
What advice would you give to a young person starting out who may be passionate about something that requires them to take on an unconventional path? So like maybe not going to uni or not doing a trade. Obviously there is no clear blueprint for someone working full-time in the boxing industry, or becoming, you know, a head coach at a gym. What advice would you give to them, whether it was that or something completely different?
Yeah, I would say take the risk. Take the risk, because I was in a very similar situation. Like I said, I started out working with the kids, and it was sort of just staying at a steady state. And I was at a point in time where, like, I was in year 10, year 11, people are starting to think about like different uni degrees and things like that. And I had like people around me going, okay, like you should be thinking about this and that, and you can't work at a boxing gym for the rest of your life. Like that's not very realistic, you know? And it was actually a lot of pressure, bro. It was so much pressure, because I'm trying to, like, I feel like I've always been fairly switched on, and I'm trying to set up my life and do something that I know is going to be a guaranteed path. And you hear about the typical like uni path, you know, go to uni, get a degree, this, that, you know. And I was like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I like didn't really like school very much. And I just wanted to do something. I always knew like I wanted to do something that I love. Yeah. Because the people around me, my family and things like that, like, not that they suffer or anything like that, but that I have always seen them, you know, busting their ass or working their absolute hardest to provide for the family and to provide for themselves. And for me, like, it wasn't even about that. For me, I knew I wanted to do something where I was happy and fulfilled doing that, you know? And for me, like, doing something that I love has led to something like this. So I guess my best piece of advice was just take a risk, because you never know. You never know. It's doing something like this has led me to a point like this where I'm now a head coach of, another location. I'm going through so many different sort of learnings and experiences I would have never dreamed of. I would have never dreamed of. If you asked me, 4 or 5 years ago where I'd be, I would never imagine here. You know what I mean? Never. So ideally, like, my advice would be take the risk and put yourself around similar people that have your ambitions and goals. You got to. I truly believe the people you surround yourself by is who you become, and I've sort of learned that, like myself, going through the processes, being around those sort of people and learning how they speak and how they talk and what they go through and their kind of mindset around things has been so eye-opening to me, and just learning so much. Learning a whole nother side of life that I guess I would have never got if I didn't join a gym like this and surround myself, with people like yourself and other people. And yeah, I would say just take the risk and being young too. Like, I know in the forefront of my mind, like, if everything does fail, I'm still young and I can still go for whatever I need to anyway. So take the risk, and that's what I'm doing. I see a very bright future in what I'm doing, and I believe it's going to lead to big things. So I'm continuing to take the risk, and sometimes I guess the bigger the risk, the bigger reward is what I've sort of learnt as well. So yeah, take the risk.
100%, mate.
Sure.
And you're a testament to how truly transformative boxing can be for people.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you walked into the gym as a 14, 15-year-old, relatively chubby kid, just because you wanted to lose a bit of weight, gain some confidence, learn some self-defense. And then fast forward 5 years later, you're the head coach of your own location. You're helping hundreds of people, transform their lives, as well as developing other coaches to do the same as you, to have even more of an impact,
Yeah, for sure.
What is it about boxing that you think is so transformative for people?
I think the biggest thing of why it's transformative, I guess, is just the lessons that it teaches you throughout the course, not necessarily physically, more mentally, and I guess the life lessons it's like, for me personally, the life lessons it's taught me, externally from, obviously, your parents and your things like that. You see how they live their lives and you see what, like, the general sort of vibe is. But what boxing has taught me is, like, the as mentioned before, the more risk you take, the more outcome it naturally comes, I found. And I guess the biggest thing is, the different life lessons physically and mentally, that it, I guess, shows you along the way. No matter what point I found in my, like, time that I've been here, I guess each battle that you have, and each thing is always for, like, a purpose and for a reason, and it always has a good outcome at the end of the day, I've found. So I guess just going through those different life lessons and knowing how good they are for me and shaping me into the person that I am today, which I'm very grateful for obviously all the support from everyone. But learning those skills and then being able to pass them skills on to other people because I know they're beneficial and I know they've benefited me, and there's ups and downs throughout the whole process. I've had so many ups and downs, like, throughout it all, and you think one time something's going on and you're not sure about things, and then you love it one day and you hate it the next, and you're like, so many up and downs. But I can honestly sit here and say, like, it's all been worth it. Every bit of it has been worth it, and every good day, every bad day, every whatever it may be has been worth it at the end of the day, for myself. And it's only continuing to get better each and every day. And I think, the biggest lesson it's sort of taught me is just general life lessons that you can apply not just to boxing, just to your life in general. Speaking to people, being around people, doing your hobbies, like, just your natural persona about yourself and how you hold yourself and your, like, how people see you as a person, I think is very important. And I think boxing has been able to teach me how to, in my opinion, become the best person that I can possibly be. So without boxing, I don't think I wouldn't learn half the skills that I feel like I am here today, So just life skills in general, I feel like has helped and contributed to make me the person that I am today.
At the ripe age of 20, mate, the world is your oyster. What is the next big goal you're working towards?
The next big goal I'm working towards is to probably have my own franchise and run my own show, and be as a collective, just be the absolute best person I can be, run my own gym, facilitate my own gym, and who knows where it can go from there, and who knows what the stepping stones can look like from there, but just to be the best possible version of myself I can be. And my biggest goal, Das, is to change like my family line or my family tree, I guess, and be be like the black sheep of the family and just do something a bit different, and just go my absolute hardest in it, because I do see big success in it, and I want success for my family, and my family that once I create one day too, and just to be able to put a different sort of stepping stone in that family line, in that family chain, and whatever steps that is required to get me to that position, I'm willing to take at the end of the day. But yeah, I guess the next big thing is potentially have my own franchise and many more to come. So we'll see where it goes. That's I guess my biggest goal.
Absolutely,
sure.
mate. And if you could have a conversation with your 80-year-old self, what advice do you think you would give to you right now?
It's a bit of a hard one because obviously I'm very far away, but I would say, if like to my 80-year-old self, I would say, just from what I've learned from now into, working with people, just to continue learning and continue learning skills, because skills are invaluable. It is something I've learned, the skills that you can learn from any, not just boxing, not just work, like any life skill, you can't put a price on it, I've truly learned that. And for a lot of the time, my mindset was actually the opposite, my mindset was like, you do X, you get X, because that's how it is, and it's taught me like those different life skills. And I guess the 80-year-old me would say, just keep doing what you're doing and keep striving for greatness and keep striving for success, because I truly, we're only on this planet once, you know what I mean? We're only on this life once, and I want to make the absolute most of it. So I guess you turn around and say, go your absolute hardest and, make everyone proud. So that's what I would want, yeah.
On that note, mate, we'll sign off. Appreciate you coming down
Appreciate
today.
You,
Thank you very much for being part of the podcast.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you very much.